discover live theater. My best friend, Lance, the artistic director at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, had his own project blooming, his Fair Verona Players. Never one to pass up an opportunity to entertain, Lance was launching his own spin-off production company. The Fair Verona Players would be staging their first performance in Uva's vineyard in a few short days. Lance had been at OSF, as the locals call it, for nearly a decade. His creative way of combining tradition with innovation in gender-bending Shakespeare productions had made OSF one of the most esteemed repertory theaters in the country. Lately, though, he had confessed that he needed a new challenge, something smaller and more personal that would allow him the freedom to leave his indelible mark on a new generation of actors and patrons. In Lance's words, hosting intimate productions amongst the vines, where patrons and actors could engage and interact in a gorgeous, lush outdoor setting, provided a space for raw expression. "There's nothing that can compare with the vulnerability of putting on a stripped-down show," he explained to me when he first pitched the idea of partnering. "This isn't going to be Shakespeare with sequins and glittery lighting. No, darling. We're taking plays with a small yet mighty cast and bringing the audience on a journey with us that will leave them forever changed. Creativity does not thrive if we stay stagnant." Lance had an unmatched gift for embellishing, but I didn't put up a fight. I loved the concept. Watching a show in the vineyard on a warm spring evening while sipping on an earthy glass of our Malbec sounded like a dream, and I could appreciate his need to stretch himself. I felt the same way about Torte. It was one of the reasons I had been so intent on expanding our offerings and partnerships at the Bakeshop. The question was, had I been too ambitious? Until recently, I thought I was managing our varied projects well, but now I was starting to second-guess myself. "Jules, are you sure you're good?" Andy asked, waving a hand in front of me to get my attention. His face was tanned from spring skiing on Mount A. There was a touch of auburn stubble on his chin and cheeks. When I had first returned home, Andy was a college student at Southern Oregon University. He had opted to drop out in favor of pursuing his passion, coffee roasting. Mom and I had agreed to support him and do whatever we could to help him grow his roasting operation. He never called me Jules. Usually Andy was all about the coffee banter, but he stared at me with such an intense gaze that I wondered if I looked worse than I felt. "No, I promise. I'm fine." I lifted one hand off the counter as proof and pointed to the empty coffee carafe. "I polished off the entire pot before you got here. I just need to eat something." I couldn't tell if I was trying to convince him or me. "Okay." He hesitated and scrunched his wide forehead like he was trying to assess whether I was in danger of passing out. "I guess you probably don't want to sample my latest roast?" "Of course I do." I peeled my other hand free and kept my eyes focused on the built-in brick oven at the far end of the kitchen. As long as I didn't look down or to the side, I should be all right. That could be problematic with the day of baking we had ahead of us, but I didn't want to freak him out. "My egg bake, raisin bread, and chocolate muffins will be done soon. I'll fuel myself and be ready to savor your next masterpiece." "I'll fire up the espresso machine and be back soon." Andy took off upstairs. As soon as he was out of sight, I inched along the wall to steady myself. The dizziness came in waves with no predictable pattern. It had been happening on and off for a few weeks. Eating sometimes helped, but if it continued like this, I was going to have to make a doctor's appointment. My egg bread bowls were ready, so I carefully removed them and rested them on cooling racks. They bubbled with steam and smelled heavenly. The bake was simple. I had halved and hollowed out crusty leftover buns. Then I cracked eggs in each half and topped them off with a splash of heavy cream, fresh herbs, and salt and pepper. I baked the eggs in the bread, creating a soft, creamy center and a perfect vessel for breakfast on the go. While I waited for the egg bread to cool, I turned my attention to the